Hey, you got anything?
Yeah, I got 5 tips on the easiest ways to go vegan.
Shh.
Welcome back to my channel, Plants and Protein, all about making vegan fitness easy. And in this next video, I'm going to be giving my 5 top tips on the easiest ways to go vegan. And some of these tips might not necessarily be as useful as others, depending on where you currently are in your vegan journey, but I guarantee they will bring some sort of value in some way. And they're things that I would have liked to have known before I started my vegan journey, because if you've ever seen any of those memes about new vegans not really having a clue what to do or where to start, well, that was definitely me. And I struggled a lot when I first started, I can't lie. I was pretty much eating lentils most meals every day, and I ate them so much that I just made myself sick of them, and I couldn't really touch them for about 2 years. So definitely don't make my mistakes, and hopefully my kind of experience will be able to help you on your vegan journey. So if you're interested, then carry on watching. So getting straight into it, I'm going to start with tip number 1, and tip number 1 is patience, and that's something that can be applied in all areas of your life, not just this, but patience. What I mean by that is that you can't just rush into everything, going cold turkey and everything, and just eliminating all animal products straight away. I mean, some people do that and some people do it successfully. I tried it, I failed, and I feel like just throughout my experience, it's not the easiest way of kind of going about things. If you're patient with it, if you're patient with the process and gradually do things, say gradually start switching out certain foods here and there, then work up to replacing meals, and then you'll eventually be able to work up to kind of replacing whole days and even weeks without using any animal products. And that's kind of where you want to go. That's the end goal. So just be patient with it, and you're definitely going to have an easier time kind of with the transition, because like the old saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day, and your diet wasn't either. So if you've been eating away, depending on how old you are, if you've been eating a certain way for say 10, 20, 30 or more years, then you're naturally used to that kind of comfort, and as soon as you break away from that, it's going to be a shock to you. No matter what it is, it's going to be a shock. Whatever you do, if you're suddenly breaking away from certain habits, it's going to be hard to kind of stick to that when you've been doing something for so long. So if you gradually do it, then when you slip up, because you will slip up, it happens to everyone, it's completely normal. I used to slip up pretty much every week. I used to love Domino's and I couldn't stop eating Domino's. But when you do slip up, because you're gradually doing it, you're not going to be as hard on yourself when that happens, and you'll still be able to enjoy the process, and you just won't feel as stressed or kind of disappointed in yourself when you mess up. So if you're just patient with it, it would definitely help with the process. So tip number 2 that I've got for you is support groups. And support groups, initially you want them to be kind of your close friends or your immediate family, and people that you've already got kind of a relationship with, so you can trust them basically, and that you know that the advice that they give you is usually going to be genuine and honest, and you can kind of expect that from them. But in an ideal scenario, that's the case, but most of the time, especially with the kind of whole vegan thing, I know that it's a little bit funny for certain people and certain families. You might not necessarily have those people that you can talk to. So the next best thing is Facebook groups, and Facebook groups are something that I wish I came across sooner, because Facebook groups, there's honestly a group for pretty much every logical thing you can think of out there. And when it comes to vegan especially, I mean, if you're searching for women vegan, bodybuilding vegans, keto vegans, oil-free, gluten-free, anything that you can logically think of, I'm sure there'll be a group. Even your local area, I'm sure there's a group for vegans there as well. So go on Facebook, find a Facebook group, and just get involved in that community, because the majority of the people on those groups will actually be very willing to help, and they'll be able to support you along the way. And it's another kind of tip that can be applied in all areas of your life as well, so not just this. But if you're ever starting anything new, it's always good to speak to someone or people that have kind of experience in the area. So if you're struggling in a certain area on a certain thing and you want a better understanding of something, then just ask someone who knows. It's going to take the stress away, and it's going to give you that reassurance knowing that you're doing the right thing or that you're on the right path. So tip number 3 that I've got for you is supplements. And supplements can be very useful, especially when you're first starting out, as you might not have the best understanding or knowledge of what foods contain what nutrients, and it's just always easier just to supplement something sometimes, just to make sure that you're getting those daily requirements in, as it is a lot of information to kind of digest and take in and learn for yourself at once. So just before I go into it, I just want to make it clear that supplements are 100% not needed. Everything that your body needs can be be found through plant sources. For example, things like omega-3s that people say that you need to consume fish for. The only reason they get their omega-3s is because they consume algae plants, which are in the sea, and then they store them in their body, and then they're then later passed on to whoever consumes them. So essentially they're just acting as the middleman. They're eating the plant themselves, storing it in their body, and then passing it on. So straight away, that just doesn't sound like the most effective or efficient way in getting that nutrient into your body. It's always better to go direct to the source. So don't believe the hype. It's just a load of excuses why people don't want to go vegan or don't want to try it. So just don't listen to that. But trust me, everything that you do need can be found through plant sources. So if I was to recommend one supplement, if any, it would be a multivitamin. It contains B12 and iron, and the reason for that is because if you're consuming animal products, which usually contain a high amount of B12 and iron, then you switch over to a plant-based diet, which don't necessarily contain the high amounts as the animal products do. And if you don't have the best understanding and knowledge, like I said before, it's going to be harder kind of getting those daily requirements in. B12 and iron are very, very important for your body to function properly and basically for you to survive. So if you're not getting those daily requirements in, you're going to know about it. I'm sure you might have seen some vegan YouTubers actually going back to eating meat because they got iron deficiencies, and it's quite a common thing to hear about, but that's just because people aren't monitoring those levels properly. So if you want to be safe with it, it's always better to be safe than sorry, especially with B12 and iron. Like I said, just get a multivitamin that contains both of them, and it's going to take that stress away and you won't need to worry about it. So tip number 4 that I've got for you is meat replacements. And I know that this tip might get a little bit of stick, but meat replacements are definitely your friend, and they're something that I use now and that I actually enjoy, and the majority of the time now especially, they actually contain high amounts of protein in them as well, so they're a really good protein source the majority of the time. The reason that meat replacements do get a little bit of stick is because they're processed. Everyone knows that they're processed, and when you first hear the word processed, you think that's going to be unhealthy, but you've got to look at it in this way, okay? So you've got to understand what processed actually means when it comes to food terms, and all that means is that the original food source has either had something taken away or added to it to make it processed, and the majority of the time that just means either salt's been added to it or an oil's been added to it and some fiber's been taken away, the majority of the time. But if you compare that to meat, okay, meat that has high cholesterol and also contains zero fiber, and you compare that to a meat replacement which has fiber in it and no cholesterol, it's always going to be better. It's always going to be a better choice to use a meat replacement. That's just the way it is. And the fact that people are worried about fiber intake when they don't really kind of hit the daily requirements as it is, the general population hit around 50% of their daily requirements that they need. So a rule of thumb for fiber intake, just so you're aware, is per 1,000 calories consumed, you need around 14 grams of fiber. And for most people, that's going to be about 40 grams a day. And most people are getting about 20 grams a day. So if you're actually cutting out a meat-based product and using a meat replacement, then you're actually adding fiber to your diet. So it's actually going to be a better choice for you regardless of how you feel about meat replacements and processed foods. So tip number 5 that I've got for you, and this is another one that's gonna probably get a little bit of stick as well, but that's vegan documentaries. Before I get into it, I don't want you to think that I'm preaching or anything like that. It's not about that. This channel is about vegan fitness and health, and that's what I want to promote. And everyone knows that vegan documentaries are usually about the other side of the meat industry and about the slaughterhouses and what goes on behind the scenes and the things that people just don't want to see. I don't want to see it myself either. I don't think I've actually watched a single documentary about any of that. I've watched maybe 10 minutes and I had to turn it off just because I don't want to see it. It's not nice to see, and I'd rather just not see it. But what I want to talk about vegan documentary wise is actually the new ones that have recently come out about how they can be detrimental to your health. Even on the BBC in the UK, it is actually on live television. They actually went over a study, so for everyone to see on live television, and it was basically showing how certain meats and processed meats specifically are actually carcinogenic, which means that they cause cancer, and that's one of the leading killers in the world. So straight away, that's not a good thing. And then there's also other known facts out there like increasing inflammation, increasing risk of heart disease, raising raising blood pressure, increasing risk of obesity. There's loads of information out there, and these vegan documentaries that have just came out now really do kind of go into depth with that. But the thing that triggered it for me, really, this is a personal kind of experience, was when I found a study about cows and cow milk specifically. And dairy never really used to agree with me anyway. When I say dairy, I'm referring to cow's milk. Obviously you can get dairy from your mum as well, but when I say dairy, cow's milk. So when I used to consume dairy, it never really agreed with me. It used to upset my stomach a little bit. I used to get bad skin, I used to get spots, and I just never used to think it was right. So when I looked into it a bit more, and I found out that cow's milk is supposed to turn a baby calf, which is a similar weight to what I am now, turn a baby calf into a 2-ton animal within the space of 1 to 2 years, which is absurd. That is just ridiculously quick for growth in general. So the amount of hormones that are in that milk are just not designed for humans to consume, and no wonder that 65% of the general population in the world, that means, has a lactose intolerance. And I guarantee that number will rise. I guarantee that the more research is kind of done and taken out and looked into it, I guarantee that number will continue to rise. Like I said, I don't want this to come across preachy or anything like that, but at the end of the day, they are facts. And if you do need something that's going to kind of motivate you to switch out those animal products and start switching over to a plant-based diet, then having a motivator like that can definitely help. And I know that it would have for me. I wish I knew these things sooner. If I knew these things, say 10 years ago, I would have been vegan a lot longer, and I would have went vegan a lot sooner than what I did. And yeah, like I said, sometimes it just takes a bit of knowledge and a bit of education to have that kind of impact and actually hit home. But if you are struggling for that motivation, then definitely give a couple vegan documentaries a watch, and I guarantee it will help you in some way. So there's my 5 top tips on the easiest ways to go vegan. I hope it was useful and brought some sort of value to you. Obviously everyone has a different perspective and take on things. This is just my take on it. If you do feel like I did miss something out that I could have included here, like a tip or something, then feel free to leave a comment, as I'd love to know about it. And if you did find it helpful, then feel free to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone else who might find this video useful to them as well. So that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.